Making a sequel to a beloved video game is one of the hardest things to do in the world. Just ask Devil May Cry 2, Mass Effect Andromeda, or Duke Nukem Forever. These are just to name a few. Seriously, I could go on for days. With this in mind, when The Last of Us 2 was announced back in September 2019, I was cautiously optimistic, and you can't blame me for feeling that way. Honestly, how do you make a sequel for a game that's pretty much perfect? In a way, a sequel felt more like Da Vinci walking up to the painting of a Mona Lisa and drawing a handlebar mustache, a monocle, and a top hat on her. Yet upon the game's release in the summer of 2020, I was made to eat most, if not all, of my words. I have to keep it real here, folks. The Last of Us 2 is a pretty amazing game. Probably one of the best video games of all time. Playing this game puts you on an insane roller coaster of intense emotions, just like the original, only it succeeds in amping up the emotions to an even higher level. With The Last of Us 1 remake recently released on the PS5, a game which I have recently reviewed on this channel, I believe now is a good time as any to give my review on The Last of Us 2 and to give you the 411 on what features I feel helped make the game an instant classic. Now, before we proceed further, I just want to let you know that this review will contain lots of spoilers, as this game has already been out for 2 years already. With that out of the way, buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
The first area where The Last of Us 2 really shines is its story and gameplay. The game is set a few years after the events of The Last of Us 1 and is centered around Ellie's quest for vengeance on Abby and the rest of the wolves, who brutally murdered her father figure and all-around American badass Joel. Abby was the daughter of Dr. Jerry Anderson, you know, the surgeon that Joel killed at the end of part 1 to save Ellie and doom the whole world. She's a hulky, bodybuilding, clicker-crunching, bloater-beating behemoth of a playable character. I had an intense hatred for her during the opening chapter of the game, especially after what she did to Joel. But then, halfway through the game, I found myself feeling sorry for her and even rooting for her to succeed. The only fictional character I could ever remember feeling that strongly about would be Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. Cersei, on the other hand, can go to hell for all I care. This is a great example of the incredible storytelling prowess that Naughty Dog employs in The Last of Us 2, and their uncanny way of improving the sequel. Sure, The Last of Us 1 had a great story, but part 2 just has a way of upping the ante until everything is over 9,000! Simply put, part 2 doubles down on everything you loved about the original game. Oh, you like story-driven games? How about we give you a game full of so many segues, flashbacks, and character development, it feels like you're stuck in Hideo Kojima's wet dream. Oh, you like clickers? Well, here's a boss fight with a freaking rat monster creature and its midget zombie friend throwing exploding spores at you as you run for dear life. Say what you will about Naughty Dog, and trust me, people have said a lot. One thing you have to admit is that they've got balls. I mean, killing off the beloved protagonist of the first game right in the opening act? That takes a lot of cojones, man. And this also left a lot of fans a little salty. I, for one, stopped playing the game for a while after Joel's death scene. But by the time the end credits rolled, I was glad I played the game through to the end. The second area that was vastly improved upon was the gameplay and the characters. The gameplay of The Last of Us 1 was great, but let's not pretend it wasn't without its flaws. The puzzle solving and platforming sections of the first game sometimes left me feeling like I was playing Donkey Kong or some other crappy Nintendo title, especially with all the ladders I had to balance and all the rafts I had to find for Ellie. The Last of Us 2 does away with all that and instead opts for a more modern form of platforming. The additions of the dodge and prone mechanics as well felt like a fresh coat of paint to what was otherwise an aging wall. Players can now crawl through tall grasses and dodge enemy melee attacks during fight scenes. And speaking of enemy attacks, the NPCs in The Last of Us 2 are a lot more realistic and aggressive than ever before. From the expendable Scar warriors to Isaac, the wolf's leader, every character feels real and fleshed out. This is accentuated by subtle nuances throughout the game, like NPCs calling out the names of their slain comrades and even taunting the player with a last word before having their skulls bashed in. This ultimately made the combat and stealth sequence of The Last of Us 2 much better than the one in Part 1, especially with the addition of dogs that can quickly sniff you out of your hiding spots. An introduction that has a way of always keeping you on the edge of your seat.
No. Just take him.
Another huge leap in The Last of Us 2 over the original game is in the graphics and environment. I saved this for last because I believe it goes without saying. The game looks photorealistic and incredibly immersive. The tall grasses, dilapidated bridges, and abandoned buildings all seem like they are frozen in time and slowly being reclaimed by Mother Nature. Then when that enchanting scenery coalesces with Gustavo, beautiful yet haunting music, it leaves you begging for an apocalyptic pandemic. Finally, The Last of Us 2 may not be perfect. I certainly wouldn't say it's a game for everybody, what with Joel's death and the amped up gore of the story, but it's certainly an incredible video game that I thoroughly enjoyed playing, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. The game has sold over 10 million copies and has even led to a Last of Us TV series to be greenlit on HBO Max. It's set to be released in 2023. What's more, Neil Druckmann has also revealed that a possible story for The Last of Us 3 has already been outlined, but those plans are still early in development. None of that would have been possible if The Last of Us 2 wasn't a huge success. Do you agree with my review? Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell to get regular updates on new videos. Thanks. We'll see you in the next one.